Okay, I'm here with Diego, and this is Chico, and I got the name screwed up over and over, so I'm glad I finally figured it out. In this video, I'm going to show you how some tips and tricks you can use to stop your dog from pulling on a leash. Now, I'm using a martingale collar, or it's also referred to as a no-slip collar. If you get one of these, it should look like a number 8, like this. You're not ready for that yet. Now, first of all, before we actually apply this and put them on a leash and show you how you can stop them from pulling on a leash, I'm going to talk about before the walk. Dogs' energy impacts everything. If two people are having an argument, they can have an argument as civil discourse at like level 2 energy, but once they get to like level 6 or 7, that's when the 4-letter words come out and people get really upset. So dogs go through energy levels as well. I like to say 0 is asleep, 10 is as crazy if you've seen the dog. So the very first step is making sure the dog has a calm energy before you actually leave the door. The energy your dog has during the leashing process is the energy they will carry with them on the walk. If your dog is all keyed up, and it's going to be all crazy on the walk, and you're going to be like this the whole time. So the very first thing I want to do is teach the dog to stay calm. Now, I'm not going to actually go through it. I'm just going to pantomime here. But let's say that where this tree is actually where the dog's leashes are kept. And let's say that when I'm getting ready to take the dog for a walk, a lot of times we narrate. Are you ready for a walk? You want to go for a walk? And these are people who usually have to say, should we take the dogs for a W-A-L-K? Not only do they spell it, they whisper it or they cover their mouths or something. That's an example of classical conditioning. They ask the dog if they want to go for a walk, or here's the word walk, then the leash comes out, and then the guaranteed fun of the excitement of a walk follows. So now hearing the word walk makes me excited about what's going to happen after. So what we want to do is we want to break that association. So let's say that this is where the leash is. I had a guy in South Central Los Angeles whose dog was so excited for the walk, it was literally screaming by the time we actually got to the door. So the first step was just to walk where the leash was. Well, for dogs, whoever's in front is perceived to be in charge. And so as soon as the dog would walk in front of him, he would turn around and walk away and go sit down on his couch. We don't say no. We don't yell at the dog. We don't get upset. But what the dog thinks is going to happen stops happening as soon as it moves in front, which is the leadership position. It took us 45 minutes of getting up, walking from his couch, walking here. As soon as the dog walked in front, he turned around and sat back down. Eventually the dog's like, so as soon as I walk in front, we stop? Okay, I'll just walk behind you. So we got all the way over here. The next step, let's say this is where the actual leash is the guy actually reached like this, and the dog started basically doing what he's been doing in this video, jumping up, going crazy. So now the energy level at this point is just starting to accelerate. So when I come here, we tell the dog to sit. Doesn't matter if he does because it's pantomime. So let's say the dog sat down. Then I would start reaching for it. Now, as soon as you start reaching, the dog's like, oh, that means he's going to grab the leash and he's going to get all excited again. So as soon as you start reaching, as soon as the dog starts getting excited, you stop, sit. And once it sits, then I reach again. So it was 45 minutes of walking to where this was before the dog stayed in the house. This process, now let's say that I say sit and the dog settles down right away, then I can continue the process. If I say sit and the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away and go sit down on the couch and the whole process starts again. Now eventually, at first it was like this far before you had to pull his arm back, and then this far, then this far, then this far, then he could actually touch it, then he could pick it up. And anytime the dog got excited, remember, it's important to understand, excited is not necessarily happy when it comes to dogs. Excited is an unbalanced state of mind. We want the dog to stay calm and seated. So again, it was back and forth, and this part took an hour to attach the leash. So now we're an hour and 45 minutes. We went for the walk, and it's like, that was the best damn walk I've ever been on. Because we made sure that the energy in the house during the leashing process was calm. That translated to a great walk. Now, who has an hour and a half to do that? Or an hour and 45 minutes? Second time it took 20 minutes. Third time it took 7 minutes. After that, it's less than 2 minutes. So the more you practice, the better. And the little tip I will give you as a dog behaviorist is to practice this exercise when you're not taking them for a walk. Now it doesn't guarantee the walk. Oh, it's another drill. Oh, it's another leashing up drill. Man, I remember we used to actually go for a walk. Oh, we're walking. And you almost catch them by surprise. So after a while, the dog gets in the habit of being calm and relaxed before the leash. Okay, so that's the first step. So if you have a dog that's getting excited, these are the steps you need to practice, and try to get in the habit of leashing your dog up 4 or 5 times for every one time you put it on a leash and take it outside. Now, if your dog did not, you could have skipped to this part, but you got good tips anyways. All right, so I'm going to use a martingale, and we have a flat leash. Is it a 6-foot leash or a 4-foot leash? 6 foot. If you can reach in that open pocket there and look for a leash that's smaller, and you can pull it out. I prefer a 4-foot leash because for dogs, whoever's in front is going to be in charge. And if a dog is in front of you, it's reactive. It's going to, or reactive to other dogs. It's probably going to be more reactive if it's in front of you. You can hold right there. It's fine. Okay. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the martingale collar, and this is the, and I'm going to add a special twist of the leash, and then we're going to go out for a little bit of a mini walk. Now, for a lot of dogs, they don't like having. If you have a dog that doesn't like having the collar put on, and they kind of move away like he did right there, you can use this little trick. Come here, buddy. So what I'm going to do is make this a positive experience for him. Sit, sit. Anytime you're using a treat, always come back to the dog's nose. So I hold it through here, and he gets a treat. I hold it a little bit this way. He puts his nose through, and he gets a treat. Now he puts his nose the rest of the way, and he gets a treat. So that creates a positive association. All right. So now when we do this, we want to take the loop where the D ring is attached. The D ring, it looks like the letter D. We have that aligned on the spine. Now I'll take the leash if I could. Thank you, my lovely assistant. Shouldn't say lovely, that's a little condescending. All right, not intended. Okay, so then what I do is I attach the leash, and then I'm taking the leash, and this is again a 4-foot leash because I'm not going to let the dog walk in front of us. And I go down, around, under his chest in a U shape. Now when I'm doing this, it's behind both front legs. When a lot of people do it, they go through here. Don't do that, just go around both front legs. And then I'm going to thread the needle, kind of that's a little bit of a, there's a little inside joke there. But I'm going to thread the needle towards the dog's head, never towards his butt. It will release a little bit better. Now, the benefit of this is this has 2 points of contact like a harness does. And so this will, harnesses are great except for the problem with the harness is it's designed for dogs to pull. The lower in the dog you go, the more pulling capacity you have. So if you have a dog that pulls, you put a harness on it, it's about the worst thing you can unless you want them to continue pulling. So what I've done here is I've created a bit of a harness. There's 2 points of contact. And when I correct him, all the pressure is on his chest as opposed to on his neck. The guardian noticed that he makes a coughing sound when we're on a leash and he's pulling. And you can actually collapse the trachea. And you can hear my voice a little bit distorted. And if it gets collapsed, it'll sound like they're hoarse or coughing the rest of their life. And it can be dangerous for them. So we don't want that to be the case. All right, so sit. That's a little passive training. All right, so then once you've got this attached, now again, it's a 4-foot leash. I'm going to go ahead and stand up, and the guardian might need to take a step back to get us both in the shot. All right, so my next question would be, which side is he supposed to walk on? Your right side or your left side? Does he have a side? Does not have a side. This is another mistake a lot of people make. Now, you can eventually have your dog on both sides, but right now when you're teaching them, I would assign each dog a place in the formation. You know what, Diego, when you're walking, you're always going to be on the right, and why am I blanking on his name? Chico is always on the left. There's no right or wrong. A lot of people are like, okay, I'm on Sunset and the grass is here. Don't worry about that. Just, he knows when I'm walking, my job is to be in this place in the formation. He knows my job is to be on that side. Do you have a preference for him either way? Are you righty?
I'm a righty.
Did you prefer him on your right side then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, are you either one of you guys OCD?
No.
This bothers some people, this little twist. If you are, I could show you how to undo that. All right. Some people at home, I make it undone so it's just straight. All right. So now I have a hand. Now to correct, I have to go this high. So, and that's a little bit more leash than, and I don't want to carry the leash around like this. We don't want to have it tense because dogs have what's called an opposition reflex. If you pull on the leash, they're guaranteed to pull against you. So for this, what we want to do is we want to give a quick pop and take the tension off before he has a chance to pull on the leash. But before we do that, let's talk about positioning. My goal is I want the dog's shoulder aligned with my hip. The correction for this is to go straight up. If you let the dog go in front of you, when you try to go up, you're actually going to go back, and that's going to create more of a pulling forward sort of movement for the dog. Come on, buddy. Come on. There we go. So if I'm going this way, and you saw how I wrap it around my wrist, what I do is I go through the wide part of my hand, and I either go one full revolution. Well, I'm a taller guy, and this is kind of a little bit uncomfortable to kind of keep my shoulders tilted like this. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to do 2 fingers or 1 finger. And so I want to have, this is the only movement I have to do to correct. It's a much smaller movement. If I have a 6-foot leash, I got to go way up here before the leash gets tense, which slows down my timing. Or I got to wrap it around my wrist so many times it's uncomfortable. So in this case, I'm just going to use a 1. All right, so the rule number 1 is you want to keep him next to you on his position and not in front. So his shoulders aligned with my hip. Rule number 2 is when I don't put any tension on this leash, on this arm or on the leash, unless I'm trying to correct when he goes in front. If he lags from behind, I just let my arm go limp and just keep going, and he's going to come with you. A lot of dogs will kind of protest to try to sit down or pull against you. Don't pull ahead. Just let your arm go limp like a spaghetti noodle, keep going. Rule number 3, I used to say not letting dogs sniff on what we call a structured walk, and that's what we're going to go on in a second. However, dogs smell the way that we see. And if you don't let your dog sniff on a walk, it's going to resent it, and it's not also going to be very much fun for the dog. However, the dog's nose controls 60% of the brain. If we let them sniff everything they want, we're never going to walk anywhere. So we got to find a happy medium. So what I do, dogs do something called a migration walk, where they keep their nose off the ground when they're walking a long distance, because when they smell everything, it's too much detail. And to not allow a dog to sniff, the analogy I've come up with is it's kind of like going to a store, where as soon as you walk in the store, every single thing that you see is the coolest thing you have ever seen in your life, and you always wanted, but you're not allowed to not only buy it, you can't even look at it again. That would be really frustrating. You never want to go to that store again. And that's what it's like on a walk. They like to smell something where you expect them not to sniff it. So what I do is every block I have a free zone. Are you going to try to chew your way to freedom? Yes. I had a dog do that in about 2 seconds. I don't think you're going to be as determined as him. So a free zone where I stop, I might undo the martingale part, and I let the dog have 1 minute of sniffing. They can pee, they can do what they want to do. The rest of the time, if the dog stops to sniff, and it's not the free zone, I just keep walking. And when he stops, it'll get tense, and then eventually this will pull and he'll come along with us. But don't pull yourself, let your momentum. Don't stop when he stops, otherwise he thinks he's driving. So have a free zone every block or every reasonable period of time so the dog is invigorated and enjoys doing it. All right, now the correction for this needs to go like this. Most people go like this. And you're kind of creating a pull, and that's going to make the dog pull. Or they pull and they're holding it up like this. You don't want to do. Or when they're walking the dog, excuse me, buddy, let's get you back here. I don't want to pull you in position. Let me miss. I don't like manhandling you either. So the dog starts pulling front, they start doing this. We're flexing, I'm putting tension on the leash, and I'm trying to pull the dog in position. What I'm going to do is cause the dog to pull me back. So the idea is when he gets out of position, I'm going to pop it and then relax it real quick. So as fast up you go, you're going to go even faster on the down. Now, for this one, so this video is almost done. Do you want to just put him on the leash real quick? We'll have him come with. No, keep going, keep recording. I want to show you how to actually apply the special twist leash, but we'll get him leashed up. Now, we're going to probably have a little bit of aperture change as we go outside. It's very bright, but we're just going to have the guardian continue filming me, and we're going to go outside. Now, one last thing, before we go outside, I usually recommend telling the dog to sit before we let it out the door. And that's best done independent again of the walk, so the dog just goes and is used to sitting at the door. We're going to forego it for now. All right, so now for dogs, whoever's in front, like I said, is the leader. If you let the dog run out the door ahead of you, in front of you, that's going to cause the dog to think that it has more status than it does. So if you want to maybe move there so you can see us both. So, and then pop the leash anytime the dog starts to get in front, and when the dog's not trying to do it, and he wants to be with his guardians who are behind the camera right now, instead of with me, but normally he's going to try to go through. So you're going to keep on popping it until he stops, and then when you're ready, you go out the door first, the dog follows. Go ahead and come on with me. And we're just going to walk in your front yard so you don't have to worry about closing the door. All right, so stay right there. That's probably a good vantage point. You guys see the Zen move? This is like a big Zen garden, so you guys know. All right, so what I want to do is, again, I want to keep his shoulder aligned with my hip. So I'm just going to walk back and forth here so you can watch my corrections. Just follow me with the camera. So again, I'm going to do the one finger on the leash. If he lags behind, I don't pull, I just let my arm go limp. And this is his yard, so it's not the same as on a walk, but it's actually helpful because it's a more of a controlled environment. Again, he's trying to control it. I'm not pulling him, I'm just going to continue going. And I always turn away from the dog if I only have one dog, so the dog's on my outside. And let's see if he'll try to go in front. No, because of course we're filming this, and that would be easy. So we'll see if we can do it this way. Are you biting it? So he tries to go in front, I do a quick pop and I relax. See how he stopped moving? So if your timing and technique is right, you'll be able to stop him from doing that. Now there's a dog a couple houses down that he gets really fired up passing. Let's say you see another dog or somebody that he gets really crazy about. You have a lot more control of a dog with this leash, and there's no pressure, or there's a little pressure, but there's no pain for the, and this is not like a prong collar, shock collar, choke chain, where it causes him discomfort. That constriction actually helps him feel more comfortable. Same science as swaddling a baby, or if you've ever heard of the thunder shirt, that's basically what this is trying. Don't ever use the thunder leash, though. That's a horrible, poor execution of this technique. You can just get a martingale and do this one. So basically, now one other thing that I like to do is something called the long walk. When we go out and walking, we're tending to think of the end or the duration of the walk, and then if the dog doesn't cooperate, we get frustrated with the dog. Well, what you want to do is teach the dog to walk next to you. So I've got a bunch of treats in my treat pouch here. So what you're going to do is maybe walk from that property line there to the property line there, back and forth, and you're never going to take more than 5 steps at first. So you're going to do this a couple times to kind of warm up. So what I'm going to do, we'll go ahead and do it this way, and I'll turn around so you can see it from the other side. So I'm taking a couple steps, and whenever I want to, I just say stop. I stop, sit, 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 sit. So you're going to do this back and forth here, maybe pass back and forth 3 or 4 times, and so you're going to practice maybe 3 or 4 sits on each pass. After a while, now when your dog's walking, it's not checking everything else out, it's looking up at you. Is he going to stop again? Oh, he stopped. I'm going to sit down and get the treat. So we call that an auto sit. And it's just conditioning your dog. When I stop, I want you to sit, and if you do, you get a treat. Now, first we tell them to do it, but after a while, like I said, they're paying attention to us as opposed to paying attention to everything else. And then you go to visit one of your neighbors, and you're like, hey, John, how's it going, man? And your dog sits down. Instead of jumping up and barking, he's like, what happened to your dog? You're like, well, I had a dog on problems. He came and showed us how to do these things. But again, it's just teaching your dog how you want it to behave. So, come here, buddy. One last little thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to undo this. And this is, the guardian mentioned she wanted to teach him to walk with a loose leash. We're at the end of the session. I don't have time to teach that, but I'll show you the end result, which is teaching the dog to go in the position. And like I said, you want to pick a side, a right side or left side. So, come here, buddy. It's a little bit easier if you're in front of me. So I want to teach him to go to the side on my own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a step back and move this arm back at the same time. You're going to watch. I'm going to turn him around, and go up, sit, give him the treat. Then I turn to face him, do the same thing, step back. Now when I'm doing this, watch where he is and where I don't move my arm. So I move back, I'm behind the seam of my pants when I go up, and I deliver the treat. Never deliver the treat in front, because that's going to cause him to move in front. The whole point of this is to teach him to move back in the heel position. So this might be another exercise that we do in the yard. We just do a couple of these. Heel, or whatever your command word is. This is my heel command. My dog could be a quarter of a mile away, and I go like this. This is a big movement for him to see. And the way I emulated that is I started off by going like this, then like this, then like this, and now I can go like this. Now, when you're doing this, if your dog, LAPD, so if you're doing this, let's go on this side, but it's easier to see. Let's say the dog is going this cockeyed like that. You're not taking a big enough arc. And when you're doing this, make sure you keep it at the dog's nose level. That was sloppy leash work on my part. Now, if he turns a little bit cockeyed like that, that's okay at first, but eventually he'll come right here. This is why we call it the heel position, because we want them, their head at the heel and all the rest of their body behind us. But these are ways you can get the dog to stop moving in front of you by practicing the auto sit, by walking back and forth. You practice this. Sometimes just put him in the front yard without going for a walk. Just practice. And what I do is I do it back and forth. So he's facing me. And actually, when we do the leash training, we actually teach our dogs without using a leash. For loose leash training, which people think is weird, but the leash gets them in trouble. Now I could tell him the SIT, and I usually do at the beginning. Nope, I want you back here, buddy. So sit, sit, and then turn immediately and face him and do another one. Here, buddy. Come on. It's like I got something in my paw, and I've gotten a whole. He's got a belly full of treats. We're getting about half a bag. So now, this is a good little way to end the video. We're gonna wrap it up a sec. But if you're doing this and your dog stops listening or doesn't want to do the exercise, don't get frustrated about it. You were just doing it. After a certain tipping point, they're out of it. They're done. So you want to keep your training sessions down to about 90 seconds, 2 minutes maximum, and always end it on a good one. If the last thing he remembers is you were frustrated, I don't want to do that again because you got mad last time we tried to do the lure into the heel position. So just practice it when he wants to, and he's in a good mood, and always end it on a good one. All right, let's do one more, buddy. Over here. Let's do one so we can face the camera. Sit. This is Diego. These are some tips and tricks you can use if you have a dog who likes to pull on the leash or gets too excited before the walk to listen to you on the leash.